Hello, I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Outsiders Series 2. Now there is only one episode released so far, but I was really pleasantly surprised by it. I wasn't initially going to do a video on it, but as I said, I was really surprised by how much it has improved since the first series. Now I did do a video on the first series of Outsiders, and I did enjoy it. I loved the contestants, I loved David Mitchell, I liked the entire premise of the show, but there was something that just felt a bit missing. And I think they've definitely fixed that this series, or at least it seems like they fixed it from the first episode. So yeah, this video is going to be talking about all of the changes that Outsiders has done to make it even better. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So I'm not going to go too much into the contestants for this series because I feel like most of the improvements are made in the general format of the show, and I don't really think the contestants played a big part in the improvement of it. I think the contestants are great, and I thought the contestants were great in series 1. In fact, for me personally, the contestants in series 1, 5 out of 6 of them were comedians that I were very, very big fan of. And then one of them was somebody who I wasn't that familiar with, but who was equally as amazing in the show as well. Whereas in this series, there was 2 contestants that I would say I was a fan of, 2 that I was familiar with and had seen some of their things before, found them funny, and 2 that I hadn't really heard much about. But I was very pleasantly surprised by everybody. I thought everybody was great in the first episode. So like with series 1, the contestants are paired up. So the first pairing we have is Phil Wang, who obviously, as a big fan of Taskmaster, I love him in Taskmaster. And Phil is paired up with Fatiha El-Ghorri, who I didn't know, but I thought she was absolutely hilarious in this. I love their pairing. Their dynamic was so good. So I loved this pairing. They were, both amazing. Very, very funny. The next pairing was Joe Wilkinson. Again, love him from Taskmaster. He's been on a bunch of sitcoms as well. Very big fan of Joe Wilkinson. Obviously 8 out of 10 Cats. He's fantastic. And he was paired up with Jessica Hynes. Jessica is somebody that I have seen a lot on TV and in film as well. She's in a lot of comedy things. So I was pretty familiar with her, but wasn't somebody that I knew so much about. But I loved the pairing with her and Joe. Again, they're such a good dynamic. Last but not least with the pairings is Maisie Adam. She is a stand-up comedian. Very, very funny. I've seen her a lot on, panel shows, stand-up. Yeah, she's fantastic, and she's paired up with Darren Harriott. Darren Harriott is probably the one that I knew the least about, but he is making his way onto the comedy television circuit. He's appeared on panel shows such as 8 out of 10 Cats, Does Countdown, Richard Osman's House of Games. I think he was absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait to see what he does next, after this show, because I thought he was very, very funny. And again, pairing with Maisie was just perfect. Okay, on to what I think they improved. So one of the big things I think that they did was with the challenges or the tasks. I feel hesitant to say tasks because I feel like that automatically makes a comparison with Taskmaster, but I kind of feel like this is inevitable just because of the format of the show. And the first thing, like I said, with the challenges. So they have put on a few twists with the challenges, which makes them more exciting. So the first challenge in series 2 was to put up a tent, which fits very well with the theme of the show. It's about survival. That makes sense. And then they put a massive wind blower on them so that they have to put up a tent in a storm. That I thought was a fantastic twist. It turns something that's already quite difficult, people notoriously struggle with putting up a tent, and it makes it even harder. It makes it an additional challenge, and it was very, very entertaining to watch. I think it makes it a bit more chaotic. I just thought it was fantastic. And in comparison with the series 1 first challenge, which was to cut down a tree, that was literally just the task. They had to cut down a tree. I felt like it was slower paced in that episode compared to this one. And I feel like it worked so much better. In addition to that, I think there was faster editing, added music, which increased the pace of the entire show. It made it more exciting as a viewer. I thought it was much more hilarious to see them quickly scrambling around trying to put up a tent instead of slowly hacking away at a tree. It was just so much more enjoyable for me. The next task that they did was a cooking task. Again, this could be very simple, just cook a dish for David to eat. But they made it slightly different by giving them a bunch of unlabeled tins and a kind of apocalyptic scenario, because obviously tin food's going to be something that lasts for a while, so it definitely makes sense. They weren't given a tin opener, and they also weren't labelled, so they had to struggle and try and bash open the tins with rocks or however they could and put together an edible dish. Again, there was an additional twist with the fact that they were they did get like penalties almost, depending on like how many tins they opened. So you had to kind of do it in the least amount of tins opened. So yeah, I thought that was enjoyable because obviously the food isn't going to be edible. Well, it will be edible, but not nice. And I think that was very funny, seeing them trying to jazz up a dish with whatever they managed to pull out of like the tins. We also got a bit of cheating as well, or like attempts at cheating. So I feel like doing these added little twists in the challenges allows the comedians to do a bit more with it instead of just cooking a meal for David. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. The last task as well was a bit silly, which is bug racing. They had some silly tasks in series 1, so I don't think that's a massive change, but I really did enjoy that task. As I mentioned with the editing and the tent task, when I said it was faster paced, they were also a bit more creative with it. So there was a point where David mentioned that this would make a great hotel advert because like seeing them all struggle with putting up tents. And then they did a little montage thing showing it almost like a little mini advert for a hotel with David talking over it, nice music. It was an added little bit of humour and artistic flair with it. So I really enjoyed that. I just thought it was really good. David, I think, has also got a lot more comfortable with his role as, I don't know what they call him, just the leader. I don't know. But I think he's definitely become a lot more comfortable in his role of that. I feel like he has really embraced his sort of like dorky side a bit. Like he's always somebody that is a bit like nerdy and awkward on like panel shows and stuff, but I feel like he's really embraced that. The first task sees him wearing this giant yellow like raincoat with a hat. He looked really like dorky and very silly. So I feel like he's embracing that. Again, adds just that little bit of humour to it. Makes him stand out a bit more. And also when you see contestants wearing some silly things as well, it's just a bit more funny. Again, I'm going to link this to the Taskmaster, but to me, he feels like a mix of Greg and Alex. Obviously, he's the only host, so he doesn't have like a sidekick to make like funny remarks or to make his like assistant do things. He has to take on the role of both, and I think he's done a great job. He is a bit harsh when it comes to scoring in a good sense, but then he's also having to be Alex and having to actually give out the task. He doesn't help in any way like Alex sometimes does, but he does have to eat the things that they make for him. So he had to eat all of their dishes, which looked disgusting, some of them. He's also a lot more present for the challenges. So in series 1, he would kind of pop in here and there to see how they were doing, which worked. But in this one, it's kind of a mix. So in the first task, he was there for the entire time with each contestant, was able to comment on their progress, was able to comment on funny things that they did. I just thought it worked very, very well. It's nice to see him more involved, and he has a greater like presence in the show than he did in series 1. Another thing that they did that I felt really, really helped the show was they gave the like audience a greater sense of the environment they were working in. In series 1, like for me, it just kind of felt like a field with a little campsite and like woodland. But in this series, they have added like a map that visually shows where things are located. They have more distinct locations. So they have the campsite, they have a caravan park. Those are the only two that they've like labelled on the map so far, but it looks like they have like forest, other things like that. So it definitely gives me as a viewer a greater sense of where the contestants are going, what they are doing, how it kind of separates the challenges a bit. The map of the area was really great and showing them walking along the path to show where they get to. It just, like I said, it's nice to know where everything is. Again, I'm going to link it to Taskmaster. That's one of the things I like about Taskmaster is getting to know the house and the caravan. So I definitely feel like we're getting that here. And it's nice as well to see David going into all those different areas as well, instead of just being stuck in his HQ, which I think his HQ is great. I love the set design on this. That is something that hasn't really changed since series 1. I think they perfected it in that. I think it was a really, really great aesthetic. I just loved it. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. They also had the map behind him, so kind of like a bit of like green screen, which he then talked in front of, addressing like the audience, explaining like why he chose that task, why it's important for survival in an apocalypse, which added to the idea of David being like the leader, and also a little bit kind of a bit more like military or like apocalyptic, being like, here's the map of the area, this is why I've told them to do that. I just think it works very well. It just a greater sense of the reasonings behind the challenges and the show as a whole. In series 1, David did explain the choice of the tasks, like why they did it, but it was done in a voiceover instead of him being separate from it. And I feel like this change is really good because it gives us a bit less time in the challenges, which then links to what I said about the editing. It kind of forces them to increase the pace of the challenges. So they might have an hour to do a challenge, but which can be a bit slow paced. As I said, with the tree cutting task in series 1, it was a good task, but it was a bit slow, especially when you compare it to the tent task. So it increases the pace, makes it a bit more chaotic, and also just emphasises how bad most of us would be in a survival situation. I think increasing the pace of the show and the editing was a very important change that they needed to make, because if you don't know, if you haven't seen the show at all, the episodes are structured in 4 segments because of ad breaks, and there is only 3 challenges per episode. So there's 1 in each of the first 3 segments of the show, and then in the last segment, it's when David scores it all. So you've got, 10-15 minutes-ish to fill in each segment for each challenge. That's quite a lot of time to fill. So I feel like, shortening what you've got, adding a few more like artistic things, and making it a bit more fast-paced is definitely more enjoyable as a viewer, because it feels more chaotic, feels a bit more fun, and it allows for like them to emphasize some more of the humorous moments instead of some of the more boring moments. That is everything I wanted to say about Outsiders Series 2. There's probably some things I'm missing, but I just want to emphasize that I really, really love the show, especially this series so far. I think they have done a fantastic job of finding their footing a bit more with the format and making it and just improving it so much. I wasn't expecting a big change. I thought it was good as a show, but I feel like they've made it a fantastic show. It's on UKTV Play. It airs on Dave. The episodes air live on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. This video will probably go out after the second episode comes out, so hopefully all my compliments aren't wasted and then they've reverted back to the format of series 1, but I highly doubt that. Let me know your thoughts on Outsiders series 2. If you've watched it, do you think it's improved as much as I do? If you like this video, then please give it a like, and subscribe if you want to see more videos to do with television. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.